Welcome to Bets on the Future, where we highlight the various career paths in the electrifying metals world. From the vehicle you ride in to the bridge holding it up, metals are everywhere. Why not in your career too? I'm Jennifer Betts, a metals industry veteran with almost 20 years experience, here to highlight these incredible career paths as told by the women who are living them. This week on Bets on the Future, we are joined by Zoe Upson, the Director of FACT, Freight and Commodity Talent Limited. She is an experienced executive within the global transportation world, from derivatives broker to head of desk, specifically tanker freight derivatives like fuel, oil, and LPG FFA. Her career has spanned into 2 decades. In recent years, she broke out of trading freight and moved into recruitment, swiftly becoming the market leader in shipping and commodities talent solutions. And if you weren't aware, the metals world is in need of transportation to move those raw materials and finished products around the globe. Please welcome Zoe Upson, based out of Essex, England, in the United Kingdom. Zoe, I just want to say thank you for staying up a little bit later. For those that are listening,
for having me.
You're welcome. We've recently gotten connected, and you're not exactly a neighbor. You are across the pond, so truly appreciate the time zone difference. For those that are listening, feel free to just give a quick introduction for yourself.
Yes, okay. So my name is Zoe Upson. I'm the Director of Freight and Commodity Talent. We're a headhunting service. We specialize in the shipping and commodity sector. So shipping primarily, everything that's very commercial, so trading, broking, and then any commodity that goes onto a vessel, which would include metal and also the ship's life cycle scrap.
Yes.
So yes. That's me, and I'm also the founder of Women Together, which is just a network which grew really organically for women, again, in shipping and commodities, women who are broken trading, very male-dominated spaces, just to sort of unite and network and empower one another.
That's incredible. How did you get into this industry? I mean, you just alluded to it being male-dominated, so it's probably not exactly, wasn't initially on your radar.
Yes, I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be working in shipping and commodities. Certainly not. I always knew that I wanted to work in a business environment, being quite money hungry at a young age. So I fell into the industry, really and truly. I just got any job out of university and ironically got a job at a shipping recruiter. I placed someone at Freight Investor Services. They actually do have metal broking desks. But I actually, placed someone there, and he said, look, get this girl while she's young. She'll make a really good broker and train her up. So the next minute I know I get a phone call. Do you want to become a broker? So I'm like, yeah, like that'd be amazing. Like, I'm so excited. Like, never thought, me, this girl from Essex, get these sort of opportunities, but went along and my interview was hilarious. It was basically, what do you know about shipping? To which I could probably list a few vessels at that point, and that was that. And I said, oh, you're going to have to be thick-skinned if you're going to be working in broking. And I said, well, I've got 2 older brothers. I think I can handle myself. And then I'm going to not swear, but this was quite a genuine interview. They said, what are you going to do if one of the brokers tells you to off? This is genuinely true, right? And I said, well, just tell them to fall back. And they literally went, great. How much money do you want? And that was literally it. I think I was in there for 15 minutes tops, had a job, went straight onto the broking floor on freight derivatives, and they said, you've literally got 3 weeks to learn this or not.
Whoa.
And that was it. And then, never looked back, really, at that point. So.
Well, and that 3 weeks turned into how many years at this point, right? Like
decade.
Yes.
I had a slight gap in between where I had a daughter and got married, but then came back broking, that point tanker freight derivatives, and that was just that. I did that for some time before setting up my headhunting business.
When people think of metals, they think about probably maybe the production of it. They don't think about the fact that it's produced in some locations and then it has to be shipped like many other commodities around the world, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it it's got to be interesting to see where your business has moved materials.
Yeah. So that's like another reason why I just love shipping so much. It's obviously such a tangible market. Historically, I'm on the derivative side, so less physical, actual moving. But obviously, you're very integrated in that. But when it comes to metals, well, that's what builds the ship. 90% of anything is once been on a ship, be it a car, metals, iron ore, coking coal, grains, oil, right across the barrel. You've got LNG vessels. Obviously, everything goes on a ship. And then once a ship has its heyday, and it goes to scrap, right? And obviously, scrap, huge market. One I personally really love. I When you work in my business, industries have their own little personality. So, once I started headhunting in different commodity sectors, and that's how I got into metals, scrap people I loved. Like, just any candidate I spoke to was an absolute joy. Clients joy. I think it's maybe not such a glamorous sector, maybe, in terms of scrap or whatever. I don't know, but there's just no airs and graces, just phenomenal candidates, phenomenal people, and such again, markets you don't think about. You know what I mean? Like growing up, you don't think about going into scrap, or
No,
metals, and it's incredible market, right?
it is, and I'm chuckling because I'm biased, right? I come from the scrap side of things, and
Yeah.
very similar to your story. I had no idea it existed before this, and actually, the person that introduced us comes from the scrap, or as we now call it, recycled materials industry. And so
Yeah.
it's fascinating, and I completely agree with you. It is a slightly different world than, say, the finished product side of the business, right? Or
Yes.
maybe even the logistics side of the business. But it's been really fun getting to know
Yeah.
these individuals over
And,
the years.
and great personalities, right? Someone didn't have to connect you and I, but us being similar people, as we've discovered, wanting to make changes, diversity, that kind of kindness you don't see in often in many of these spaces. But I've only been in scrap since I've started working on particular roles, so only in the last couple of years, but I would say I've got some real friends for life. And that's a lot to sorry, the recycled material, like I just call it scrap. But yeah, fantastic market.
It's hard for me. Don't worry. It's been scrapped my whole career, and so to say recycled materials, I understand the story behind it. I understand it's from a marketing perspective, but it's real hard. I mean, it's been scrapped to me for so long.
Yeah.
When
Indeed.
when you're looking at people to place,
Mhm.
what are some of the characteristics that you're looking for? What are some of the trends that you're seeing, the types of individuals that do really well in our industry?
Yeah, okay. So obviously that really depends on the client, and what they're looking for. Often I would say again, scrap loyalty is very strong characteristic. You've got some companies which are, I think, highly desirable because they have such good graduate programs in place. So sometimes people go, oh, we'd like them if they've come from this particular company. I don't know if I should say names or not, because they have such phenomenal graduate and they train them so well. Let them do the hard work. We'll pluck them. But again, generally across the markets, particularly if you've got someone, I don't know, which I handle more commercial side, so the trading side, knowledgeable, knows their stuff about the market and the industry, tenacious and hardworking, and just good energy. And more interestingly, which has been really refreshing, and you'll like to hear this, some companies that I'm working for now really want to see more women coming in. So when they're hiring a senior trader, they like me to work out whether I feel that they would be inclusive and supportive of the values. Because sometimes in any industry, it's not per metals, but traders and brokers can be quite for themselves. And sometimes see diversity as a threat, not as a as what it is, which is a strength. To have different skill sets amongst the ranks. So which has been quite refreshing, as we need to make change here. So we need those with positions of power or seniority, or ones who are going to be in management. We need to make sure that they are able to nurture, let's say, if a woman came onto the desk, or someone from another, someone of more diverse background. And that's actually been quite refreshing to see. But again, they want to know they're a good trader, they can make money, hard working, like the classic things you look for. But that was quite refreshing to work with. And that's where I get approached quite often, is when people want to have more women coming forward, because I work as a talent solutions partner, so I won't just go and get females and bring them in per se if that's what they needed support in. I also help them and say, right, how's the company culture? Have you looked at this? What's your maternity packages like? Because it's one thing hiring, and then it's another thing retaining. And I don't like to spam hires, place someone, pull them out 2 years later. I'm like, no, we're placing people for the next 5-10 years of their life. So we need to make sure this, and if you want to make changes, I have a good understanding of what I think women have previously suffered with. I have a lot of girls come to me for advice. So, and being in the market myself, and you would know this, there are difficulties we come up against. So I have a good understanding of that. But then I also have quite a good understanding of where I think we need to make changes. And one of those is that hiring talent who can lead and support diversity. Because when you're highly senior in a business, you're not there always time on the floor handling this stuff. So you need to make sure the people that you have got there, and people coming in, run in line with your company culture and values.
It really hits home for me. You're talking about the trading floors, about it being male dominated, and then discussing the culture to keep women in those environments. And I've been there, and I also don't work for those companies anymore, right? So it is really refreshing, like you said, to hear and see companies taking a look at this seriously, because we are half, and actually more than half, of the workforce. We make up over 60% of the graduate degrees from universities at this point. And so for the next generation, for the future of our industry, and for a lot of manufacturing just in general, women are going to be playing a key, pivotal role in the future. Huge.
And a lot of investors are now turning people's arms and saying, this is what we want, a particular boardroom. That change is happening. So like you say, the graduates coming through is one thing, but this change is it's gonna happen. It's a bit like, the world wanted to become green. We've seen shipping start off IMO 2020. Now they have to do carbon emissions. We're seeing a big change with that. That's being forced. Laws have come into place. We don't have laws saying you need to hire X amount of women per year. That won't happen. But I think the senior voices are going to come down. And I often have conversations with my clients, and I'm like, get your female talent now, because in a few years' time, you're all going to be scrapping for the term, but you're all going to be wrestling around for the top female talent. And they're going to people who are experienced and good, and suddenly you need someone with that experience, and you also ideally are looking for a woman. I know you have to be careful what you say, but ultimately you're going to be paying through the nose. So you want to get the graduates in, coming through,
Mhm.
training and nurturing them effectively so they want to stay with you, so they're not get disgruntled. So many girls are so disgruntled, like I can't tell you. And it's such simple things you can do to make them stay and be satisfied. Um, and the other thing is like look now to build out your workforce, because once this really gets forced and everyone starts really pushing for it, be smart, be like 2 steps ahead here, because like you say, this is going to happen.
It is. Chief, which is a professional women's executive network, put out a study that said 30% of all incoming CEOs across all industries, not just the metals industry, are female, which fantastic. Yeah. It's the highest that it's ever been. But I was kind of curious, could I find information on, well, what is it in the metals industry? S&P Global did a study on the CEOs or the C-suites, and in the metals world, I believe from a global perspective, it was like 11-12%. And here in the States, it was basically 10%, right? So significantly lower than the average of the incoming CEOs. And representation matters. It absolutely matters in terms of a recruitment standpoint. So if you're looking to recruit a more diverse workforce, that needs to be reflected in your management team. And I'm not suggesting diversity for diversity's sake. There is a business case to diversity practices. I keep on my phone at all times. It's a saved bookmark. McKinsey does an annual report on the financial benefits to companies that have DE&I statements and policies that are actually enacted. And I can share it. You can find it on my LinkedIn. But essentially, companies that have either a gender diverse management team or an ethnically diverse management team do significantly better in business financially.
Of course.
With a more diverse workforce.
Diversity is strength. I always say it. That's 100% true. And it's like proof is in the pudding, and what we're also afraid of. I think there are lots of things to do, but interestingly, I befriended the talent, I don't know what his job title was, but he was in charge of all the grad schemes and getting talent in one of the largest trading houses in the world. They have so many women in senior positions. They have all of them have been there for decades, right? So not only have they got them in, but they've retained them. And I said to him, what is it? Because I want to know. That's why I contacted him. I said, you've got so many incredible, inspiring women all working for you. And so their method was in the graduate schemes, they take in 60-40, so 60% female and 40% boys.
Wow.
All of the graduates then go on to different, they said 8 months in different areas, back office, front office, middle office, and they find what they're passionate about and what they like. If they do go on the commercial side of things, going into trading, they get exposure early on. And then they make sure, which I think a lot of time on trading floors, women for some reason don't have the same natural confidence that boys do. I think me and you joked about this the other day, that a girl won't apply for a job unless she's got everything on the tick list, whereas a guy will just go for it. But I think there really is still confidence in the young traders. They pay them very well. Phenomenal maternity. That's another big thing that I think a lot of companies, I mean, in the States, I think it's quite bad compared to Europe.
Yeah, we're the worst when it comes to the most industrialized nations. We trail the bottom always.
Yeah.
And that's
when we work with a company now, we say if you want to be more appealing to women, it's 6 months fully paid.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And that's the way it's going. And we're seeing actually for the first time a shipping company I work with, they've really got the formula right. The girl there, they put a girl in a position of power, head of desk. She's been like, I want to make change. The bosses have supported her fully. Now I've got girls knocking at my door going, can I get in? But I can't get, the graduates, any more graduates in there. But their maternity package is 6 months fully paid and 3 months half paid. And then you go on to the government standard that anyone would get in the UK.
Wow.
And that's going to be a big, like, again, because not many people have such fantastic maternity leave. If you're a woman, you're going to be looking at these things, particularly if you haven't had children yet, or you're planning to at some point in your life. What a great pool. Like, if you want to get the top talent, let's be real here, yeah? And
yes.
I mean, even in the States, like that would be such a big thing, and plus having the understanding of the flexibility, like luckily when I was broking and I had a daughter, I still have her, but like I was broking and being a mum and up in the city, my nanny was absolutely like so reliable. But thank God she was, because I don't even want to think about the pressure that would have been put on me if I had to go because she was in nursery and she had like fever. I couldn't get in today because she wasn't well. It would have been awful. Honestly, and that's a sad thing to say. So this company as well, they've made sure that their policy is very much, we want to understand as a parent, you need that flexibility sometimes. And they've also put that into their culture, which I think is fantastic.
That flexibility, that support system buys loyalty. If you want 100%. The best individuals working for your company, you're going to have to offer not only maternity, but also paternity leave as well.
Yeah.
I was at an event recently, and I believe we've talked about this, not on this podcast, but off the record. But I was at a conference recently and I gave a speech, and one of the women came up to me afterwards, and she had a conversation with another woman who was debating whether or not she should stay in the metals industry. And I had to ask, why? Like, what was she considering?
Yeah, why?
And this conversation that she had with another woman basically was, well, I don't see any moms. I don't see any working moms in the industry. And it kind of blew my mind. And the woman that I was speaking with said that she said, oh, the woman that was speaking, she's a mother of two. Like she has, younger children. And it kind of dawned on me that we don't talk about that aspect, at least not in the metals industry, that often. And I'm in the United States, so I don't have great maternity benefits from the government, really non-existent. And so I've had to rely on corporations or companies. And actually, crazy enough, each time that I had each of our kids, I was self-employed. I had my own businesses. And so this is probably terrible to share, but I worked through basically out of hospital, back, feet propped up, laptop, in hand, like 3 days later. Not super healthy, but I did have a really wonderful client base. And at that time, I was able to be pretty flexible. But without that kind of talent, we're competing against technology. We're competing against the medical industries, these industries that have incredible benefits to their employees, and they're getting top talent.
Yeah.
So if we want that, we need to start offering that.
Exactly. And Jennifer, you just said there that really stuck out to me, that, I luckily had really good clients. This is something like no client cares about your mum. They care about their relationship, they care about the service, they care about the standards, their loyalty. And if you have a good relationship with someone, I'm sorry, but I've actually experienced this throughout. No one has ever worried about me and my daughter, or if I've had to make a call and she's been, had to sit next to me with the iPad, or she's, just been in the same room. And I said, look, oh, by the way, just so you know, my daughter is here, if she interrupts or anything, just to give you a heads up. And then no problem. I took my daughter to a business trip to Dubai. Now, loads of people can say, oh my God, like that's so unprofessional. But Dubai is a very expat. A lot of my clients have children, and the clients I've seen, I've had relationship for a very, very long time. And she had lunch with one of the biggest ship owners in the world. And the thing is, what's quite interesting is that when you actually become self-employed and you haven't got someone telling you it's unprofessional to have children around the business, and yes, it's not ideal, right? Because you don't want the distraction. But give and take, no one really cares. And I'm not saying we need to bring our children to work, and I'm not saying they should be in a workplace, because that's not great for kids and that's not great for you. And quite frankly, it's quite nice to have a little break. But but why are companies, if the client doesn't care, which you and I both know actually they don't, why are companies not adopting this a little bit? Just a little bit of, well, you need to go and work from home today, whatever, fine. Just have that flexibility, because I think it's more important. And actually, I think I got valued so much more when I became a mother in the market than I ever did before. And when I came to work, I still worked very long hours, but I worked very, even more efficiently than ever before, because I kind of wanted to get home, And I think I just, a lot of my clients had children of their own. So there was a bit more, we could discuss things, talk about, how the kids and, those things I didn't really understand before being a young girl's broker. So I think it's a really positive thing. And I think it's something that is what prevents so many girls coming in, is they go, oh, but once I get to that point, if I become a mom, there's a no-go, right? Then my career's going to, what am I going to do then? And that's what we kind of need to change, because if we want to get the women in the boardrooms, there's going to, where do we get past that point? Because we need them to come through the company, then they get to probably an age where they would like to have children, so they go and have children. We need them to come back because we need them in the boardroom. So it's something that needs to change, I think, a lot, which I think the answer to that is having role model mothers in companies and seeing that celebrated and enjoyed, and working on both ways. So you see why they're getting promoted, and she's working hard, and she's due for promotion, not because she's a mother, but because she's worked hard for it. Good maternity packages, paternity packages. I honestly think, like, I don't know about me, but it's, if you got fully paid for 6 months, you could go away and come back, you'd probably be quite keen to get back to work, to get yourself back. I think a lot of women who are ambitious and want careers, and their dream isn't, my dream is to do both. It's not to be at stay at home, with my daughter. I want to work but also be a mother. Get back after 6 months. It's quite nice, to get yourself back, start getting some normality, routine. It's great for baby as well, like my personal belief. And I think women have a new why. So, all of a sudden I worked hard, I've done the best I've ever done when I had a daughter, because I was someone to look after now, and someone to be a role model for, and like, I think there's so much good in there, but just companies need to just change their mindset a little bit and surrender to the new normal and go for it. And I think, like you say, the stats come out every year.
They do. And the US Department of Labor came out with a stat recently that essentially households that have children 18 and under at home, 70% are dual income. So 70% of all of the parents that have 18-year-olds and below work. Yeah. So this concept of, when a woman decides that she's going to want to have children, that she's going to drop out of the workforce, is just not true anymore. It's the majority of the women are staying in the workforce. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but I like to look at more of the positive ones in the United States where we want to work. I've had managers tell me early on in my career, when you get married, things will change. You'll want to stay home. And that stuck with me. Like it was.
So I should laugh, but it's
I
so
know,
real.
I know. I'm getting real candid here. So, it is what it is. But that's not me. I knew that at that point that it's not me. That was not the best fit for me in that environment either. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did not stay around. And also to your point, the best work that I've done thus far in my career has been after I've had children.
Yeah, for sure.
Period. Right?
Yeah. And I have a lot of women who would say that too. A lot of working mothers. And also, some women don't obviously want to have children. That's great, but they also need different working environments that will support them as well, and just to see more come in and retained, not just because sometimes I see girls leave the sector. It's nothing to do with being a child, having children, or being a mother. They're just tired of the same old, working twice as hard, twice as smart. I can't even. So when I set up my own business, I was free to speak freely on LinkedIn. And I've done a lot for women and speaking out. And the women that have messaged me around the world, like, thanks for being a voice. And then, and then we share stories a little bit. And it's just like some of the stories I hear, even now, I'm like, come on, it's 2023. The world's going this way. Your business is going to perform better. Let's get this diversity thing really, going and really embracing it, and let's not have our arms twisted because we have to do, it becomes gender washing, because ultimately you want the best talent. You don't just want to hire because the industry, everyone's hiring. You're like, oh god, just get us some ethnical and diverse backgrounds. And no, like, you want top talent, like, take the time to do it now and change your practices, because you will lure the best people if you get that right. Because so many times I will speak to candidates, and a lot of the time, money is important, and sometimes it can be location, or they want better accounts, or they want, maybe to have a step up in seniority. But I would say a mass majority of people is their daily satisfaction at work. Are they happy or not? Because just and feeling valued, whether that's reflected in a bonus, or, like I say, not getting the seniority positions, or getting more accounts that they want to have but they're not allowed to, they've been blocked somewhere else. That's where people really sort of want to move sometimes. Seems to be the biggest driver. It's, I feel I'm valued here and I'm being shown otherwise. And a lot of girls come to me, and I'm just still like, this was happening when I was a young girl 10 years ago, being held back. It's just like, come on, let's make some changes.
It is really frustrating to hear some of those similar stories that I've experienced, that I've also, heard at the beginning of my career, and it's frustrating. And recently I saw the lineup for a major metals conference and was extremely disappointed in the lineup from a diversity standpoint.
Yeah.
It was essentially a subtle way of saying, we haven't changed yet. And that is going to affect generations of talent coming and staying in our industry if we don't start pushing and expanding who's out there, who's more prominent in the industry, because there are a decent amount of women in this industry. They're just not getting the same amount of airtime.
Yeah, 100%. And I get so frustrated because come International Women's Day, I get so many messages and come speak on this panel, and I'm like, well, you just won this for International Women's Day. And all these companies do this big thing. I'm like, it's one day a year. There's so many conferences across the year. I don't get an invite to speak, right? But come to Women's Day, my phone's going off left, right, and centre, and I'm getting double booked for panels and God knows what, because they want to do a women's one, so they go to the top women in the industry or are quite vocal and stuff, and all of a sudden, you know, there's a demand. But that is one thing for me. I go to a conference and I always say it, and I see a sea of male heads, like, you know, like just literally when you look out, I just see male heads everywhere. There's the odd dotted female, and then you sit down for a panel and I'm like, oh yeah, no women again.
Yes, yes. Which,
like, come on, like, it's not hard.
No, and it's not. And I will share very candidly a situation that happened last year. There was a conference that I noticed the panels were not very diverse, right? And I'm not even talking about like 50-50. Like, just give me like 10 to 20% of the female of the speakers being female up there. And so it was a really interesting reaction. So I approached the conference and I, expressed my concerns. And the reaction was wonderful. The head of the conference essentially said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't really realize this. These are just the individuals that are in my network that I know are comfortable speaking, because obviously it's not for everyone." And he was very open and said, "Do you have any names? I would be more than happy to take a look at a list of names to see who
That's great.
would fit where or would be a good addition to the conference." And sure enough, within like 2 weeks of the conference starting, there was an addition of several speakers to many of the panels on there. And these were incredibly educated, well-connected, big in their fields women. And it was wonderful to see. And I'm going to that conference again this year. And it's only growing. It's only getting better. And so just by speaking up that one time and having that positive reaction from the heads there, I'm like, it's okay. It's changing. Like maybe it is happening.
The thing is, most people, if you say to them, "Do you want this change? Do you want to have it?" Like, everyone says yes. They're not. It's just everyone's happy to say yes, but not everyone's happy to actually, okay, let's go to work on this, because it's one thing to voice something, it's another thing to action it. And actually actioning it often is not difficult, but it requires effort and energy, like you've got to dig a little deeper to find the women. You've got to get a list from someone, you've got to approach them, probably talk them up a little bit if they're not used to doing it or not done it before. But again, another thing as well, I think is a big thing, is just instilling confidence in the women coming through, like, and supporting with that, because and again, like, some people I think are so blind sometimes, I'm like, if you've got someone, you've got some, young people coming through, boys and girls, doesn't matter, teach them how to speak on a panel, to publicly speak, because then when there's a conference and then you've got all these people sitting there, they're looking up, they can see your company name, it's marketing, like,
it's huge.
All the time. I'm like, and I'm so scared to speak, and I'm like, okay, but this is a fantastic opportunity, particularly for companies. You've got some young, diverse talent in your company, get them trained up young, get someone to come in to teach them how to speak on a panel, to speak correctly with clarity, to maybe have some debate. It's just little things you could do. It's free marketing, right?
It's one of the best ways to market yourself, is to getting on a panel, getting into the conference world, and it only helps you and your company. You hit it on nail on the head. So, head on the nail, what's the phrase?
Nail on the head.
Yeah, we'll get there. I still haven't finished my coffee this morning. So you had some great advice for once you're in the industry and helping promote your company and yourself with the panels. But for those that are looking to get into this industry, what's the best advice that you could give to them?
It depends maybe a little bit on age. So if they are looking maybe pre-college, as you call it, we call it university, maybe looking at a degree that support, economics or some commodities, or with these little shipping degrees and things that I suggest young people go to, because there's actually not that many people with these qualifications, but maybe something that supports you on that. Pick up the phone, please. Like, I say this all the time. So many young people now stick behind a keyboard, right? Because it feels safe. They're behind their phones and whatever. But go to a conference, pick up the phone, go network. You know, if someone called me up and said, give me 3 weeks, I'll come work for you for free. Let me show you how talented I am and how hungry I am or how much I'm going to work for you. I would give them a shot. And a lot of people I know are like that now. You know, they're just like, look, I want to get into the sector. If maybe you're slightly more senior in your career, but you have a certain skill set to step over, again, like, just networking, reaching out to the right people, conferences, picking up the phone. Like, if you haven't gone the educational route, you know, I think that's maybe the way to come and join the women's network, women in metals, women together, women in shipping group. I've got so many women who back women all day long. You know, I had a young girl come to an event once and she said, oh, I watched something of you on YouTube. I was on a YouTube video about how to be a shipbroker. And she was like, oh, we want to get involved. And I said, well, when did you graduate? And she's not graduating until next year. But I said, right, come get in the network. Start networking with these women, because by the time you graduate, you might have someone and they have the opportunity, and that's it. So I think we need to go a little bit old school in that respect, and start being a bit more proactive again. And not just hiding behind screen. Just pick up the phone. I honestly believe that it might be a bit scary. You might get a lot of rejection, but like, whatever. Like, I think that's a really positive thing to do.
Well, on that note, even though I am suggesting a screen here, I have had individuals reach out to me via LinkedIn once they've seen either some of my posts or videos along those lines. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, you know, talk to you for a little bit, say that, you know, they're ready to hustle for 3 weeks for you, how would somebody find you?
I think LinkedIn's probably my best shout. I do get quite a lot of messages often coming in, particularly if I've just posted something, but often my assistant will go through and just make sure we've not left anyone out. And then, yeah, just have a chat. I'm always happy, you know, when I get a moment, but even if it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes, just to have a chat if someone's really serious about getting in and what to do, and maybe like educational moves and things like that. Yeah, anytime.
Wonderful.
LinkedIn's probably best. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of time, thank you so much.
Yes.
We went a little bit longer than originally planned, but
I am sorry. There's a saying that we say, oh, if she could talk for England, I could talk for England. I don't stop talking.
Hey, that makes my job on this end way easier. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you, to know
Thank you so
much. Find Zoe Upson on LinkedIn.
Yes, please.
And you know, keep considering metals and in the future career.
Yes, definitely.